just going to sit on this again, if you don't mind. It was a great idea, but Graham was quite concerned that I might trip over it, and I think that's a really valid concern if I was just kind of standing here. It's either the stairs or the stump. So, Camp Sunday. It's Camp Sunday. That's why you have a stick. That's why imagination is important. You go out and, if you've ever been to camp or you go camping, it's all about enjoying the wonder of creation, isn't it? And being amazed at the world around us. And wonder and imagination are just like that, right? That we need those things. We need those things. Without those things, we wouldn't ask questions. Without those things, we wouldn't wonder and want to know more. We never create. We'd never discover. We'd never realize that we can actually do what we thought was impossible. And the Easter story is all about doing what's impossible. It's all about realizing the potential and the possibility and our ability to be part of that, to be part of wonder and imagination, to be part of all the questions. Which is why every year, and you know, this is a thing, right? We're always telling the same stories. If you were here on Easter Day 3 years ago, you would have heard the same reading as Easter Day this year, literally, because we have this schedule of readings, right, called the lectionary, and it runs on a 3-year cycle. So I can tell you what the Old Testament, epistle, gospel readings, and the psalm are for any Sunday during the church year if we use that schedule. Somebody's got together and planned this out. And it's great. Except it means you're reading the same stories over and over and over again. And that's not a bad thing either, because let's face it, we often need to be reminded of stuff. But it does mean that sometimes we end up hearing the same story. But you're not hearing the same story at Easter, for instance, because you're hearing it from different gospels. You're hearing different perspectives on that story, different understandings of that story, different ways of telling that story. The heart of the story is the same. The essential truth is the same, but somebody's telling it differently. It's kind of like when you're sitting around a campfire and people start telling stories and you go, oh yeah, I've heard that one. But you let the person tell it anyway because they're going to tell it slightly differently than you heard. Everyone tells their story a little bit differently. Except today, doesn't matter what year it is, if you use this schedule of readings that we follow, you hear the same story today. Because it's only in one gospel, you hear literally the same story every year on the Sunday after Easter. And so the real question is why? And it's about belief, is why. It's all about believing. Which is why it's important to remember that the key character in this story is one of the most important characters in the Bible. It's the famous faithful Thomas. Right? That's not how we traditionally know him, right? And here's one of those moments where clutch your stick closely because you're going to need your imagination. Because, see, the thing about telling stories from the Bible is that we've told them for a long time. And we've told them in such a manner as, if I were to stand up here today and tell you, this is what this story means, you will go away thinking I told you what it means. And because you believe in me and my authority and incredible education, you'll want to believe what I say. Right? Or else. But that's led us to kind of go, okay, well, the story means this. Because somebody told me it means that. But Jesus always tried to tell stories that left you to go, well, I wonder how that turned out. Or I wonder what that really meant. What does Jesus mean when he says this? I can offer you what I think, And I hope that's how you hear it. I can offer you what I think because I have some education and because I'm the minister and blah, 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 all of that stuff, all the labels. But essentially, if you don't think about it, if you don't wonder about it, if you just take what I say as this is what it's about, then you haven't taken the story to heart. You can only take it to heart if you engage it yourself and wonder about it. Which is why there are characters that we traditionally, in the Bible stories, we traditionally know them a certain way, right? Like faithful Thomas. Or one of my personal favorites, the noble and courageous Judas. We'll talk about that another time. Yeah, you're going to have to come back for that one. Sorry. Faithful Thomas, though. Here's the thing. Jesus appears to the disciples who have locked themselves in a room because they're afraid. Jesus appears in the room to the disciples, and his first words are, "It's so nice to see you all." Wait a minute, where's Thomas? It's not, is it? His first words are also not, "Thanks for deserting me, guys, and leaving me hanging there," literally. It's not. His first words are, "Peace to you." And then he shows them the wounds, and he tells them to go and be filled with the Spirit and go and tell people. Go and tell people. And then, of course, he says, except Thomas, he's not going to get to do any of this cool stuff. And again, no, he did not say that. So where is Thomas? Why doesn't anybody ever ask that question? It's not in the story. Where is he? Did he go for milk? He liked the coffee at the place down the street? Where'd he go? Did he go camping? Where is he? See, I think, hold your stick closely, I think Thomas was out telling people about Jesus. I think Thomas was out telling people the story of Jesus and sharing with people how important it is to love each other. I think he was out caring for people. He might have even been helping to feed people who were hungry. He might have been out healing people. He was being Jesus. That's why Jesus didn't ask where he was. Jesus knew where he was. He was out being Jesus. What if Thomas was out sharing the story of Jesus? Maybe that was how he was dealing with his grief. Jesus is dead, but this is what I've learned. And the moment he realized what he was doing, he knew Jesus was alive. See, I think he believed Jesus when Jesus said, "Love one another as I showed you." He believed Jesus when, remember, it's Thomas that asks the question, "What is the way, Jesus?" And Jesus says, "I am the way, I am the truth, and I am the life." And I bet Thomas went, "All right." And then even in his grief, at Jesus being dead, he went out to do what Jesus had already told him to do. How is Thomas not then the most faithful of all the disciples? The only part he didn't believe was when he happened to run into the other disciples again. And they said, "Hey, we've actually seen Jesus. He is actually physically alive." And of course, Thomas goes, "Okay, guys, I know we're all grieving and we're all sad. And, it's great that you all got together and everything. But no, I think you imagined that." No, we actually saw Jesus. Really? Okay. Whatever you guys say, but I'm just going to keep doing what I've been doing. And then Jesus appears to them again. And he goes to Thomas. And see, I think when Thomas says, "My Lord and my God," we've always thought that Thomas was acknowledging his belief at that point, and I think he was just affirming it. I think he was affirming the belief he already had. Jesus was alive. He was alive in him, the way Jesus told everyone he would be, the way Jesus tried to teach them to make sure he would be. Thomas was already out sharing that. The only thing he didn't believe was his very human friends in their grief. He'd always believed in Jesus, and I don't think he doubted Jesus for a minute. He was already out doing what Jesus wanted him to do. See, the Easter story is full of people. Honestly, and this is so typical of how we treat the Bible stories sometimes. We focus on somebody to make a point. Judas is the scapegoat. Are you sure? Or was he the one who actually fulfilled what Jesus knew was supposed to happen? The only one brave enough to do that, knowing what the result would be. But we've told the story a certain way in order to make a specific point, as we have with Thomas. You shouldn't doubt, you should believe. You should believe, in fact, what I am telling you right now, because that's how it is. So I think Jesus would probably frequently remind people, if you have questions, I'll try and answer your question, but you should really work this out for yourself with my help. Don't just take what I say as being the answer. Because we always have questions. Asking questions is important. How else do you learn? How else do you grow? How else do you get to know somebody well enough to have a relationship with them? That's what Jesus is all about, is how we have relationships with each other. How will you know how you can help somebody if you don't ask them? Otherwise, you're just doing what you think. Shouldn't you ask them? Shouldn't they be participating in that? Of course they should. Jesus was already alive in Thomas. Jesus was already alive in Mary and the other women that went to the tomb, who went to tell the disciples, he's not in the tomb, he's alive. Mary in particular, I have seen him, he's alive. Anyone seen that cartoon? I think I posted it on our Facebook page. And it's Mary and the women, and then it's all of the men disciples. And the lead disciple of the men is saying, okay, thanks very much, ladies, we'll take it from here. They were already believing. They were already doing what Jesus wanted them to do, share the good news. They were sharing the good news. I think Thomas was out sharing the good news too, because that's how Jesus is alive. That's how Jesus is alive in you and me, is how we share, how we do our Jesusing, how we be Jesus to others. I don't think Thomas should be labeled as a doubter because that's a bad thing, because it's not. Doubt is a part of faith. You need doubt. You need doubt because it reinforces your faith. It causes your faith to grow. It causes you to question things in your faith that maybe you ought to be questioning. It causes you to wonder. We need it. It's part of faith the same way that death is a part of life. We don't live our lives realizing that there's a point at which it will come to an end. We live it to live. But we know that's somewhere. Our faith isn't ended by doubt. It's made new again. It's refreshed. It's born again. Born again. A really good use of that phrase. Okay, born again. It is renewed. It's made alive. We need it. So today, go today knowing the story of faithful Thomas. And wonder about it. Wonder about whether or not it's important to think and wonder and imagine, to ask questions, to be doubtful or whether we're just going to say, nope, I'm going to just believe whatever you said. Because I don't doubt, I'm certain. See, one of those things puts you in a box and doesn't let you go beyond it. The other lets you go everywhere. And that's where Thomas went. He went everywhere.